stood at the entrance of the Interstellar Academy and took a deep breath. The space station was massive, bigger than anything she had ever seen. It floated in orbit around a beautiful blue planet, and through the transparent walls, she could see 1,000 stars shining in the darkness of space. She was 17 years old, and she was the first human ever allowed to study here. The academy was famous across the galaxy. Only the children of the richest families, the most powerful politicians, and the greatest scientists could attend. Species from 100 different worlds sent their young ones here to learn, to make connections, and to prepare for lives of importance. And now, because of something called the Integration Initiative, Earth had been allowed to send one student, had been chosen from millions of applicants. She was supposed to represent her entire species. No pressure at all. She walked through the main corridor, pulling her small bag behind her. The other students turned to look at her as she passed. Some of them whispered to each other. Others simply stared with expressions she could not read. Was shorter than most of them. On Earth, she was considered tall for a girl, but here she barely reached the chest of some species. Her body was compact and muscular, built by a planet with heavy gravity that pulled everything down hard. Her skin was brown, her hair was black and tied back in a simple ponytail, and her eyes were dark and watchful. She heard the word before she saw who said it. The whisper came from a group of tall, elegant aliens with skin that seemed to glow from within. They had long limbs and large eyes, and patterns of soft light moved across their bodies like living artwork. They were the species that had built this station. Kept walking, she had expected this. She had been warned. Earth was classified as a Category 7. This meant that her home planet was considered one of the most dangerous places in the known galaxy. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The animals were predators. The plants were often poisonous. Even the water could kill you if you drank from the wrong source. To the gentle species of the galaxy, Earth was a nightmare, and humans were the nightmare's children. Found her room and settled in. It was small but comfortable, designed for species that did not need much space. She unpacked her few belongings, a photo of her family, some books, and a small stone from her grandmother's garden, and placed them on the shelf beside her bed. Her first class was biology. She arrived early and took a seat near the back. The room filled slowly with students of all shapes and sizes. Some floated, some slithered, some walked on 2 legs like her, and others walked on 4 or 6 or more. The diversity was amazing and found herself fascinated despite her nervousness. Then she walked in. Val was beautiful in a way that made his chest feel tight. She was tall and graceful, with bioluminescent markings that swirled across her pale skin in shades of blue and gold. Her eyes were large and violet, and when she smiled, it looked like starlight. But there was something cold in that smile. Saw and stopped. Her light patterns shifted to something sharper, more orange. Would later learn that this meant curiosity mixed with disgust. "So this is the human," said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I thought you would be bigger. On the videos, your species always looks so aggressive." Met her eyes. "We come in different sizes, just like every species." Laughed, a sound like wind chimes, and took her seat at the front of the class, surrounded by her friends. The professor was a species that looked like a walking tree with gentle eyes. He began the lesson with a discussion of evolutionary biology, how different environments created different species. "Today, we have a unique opportunity," the professor said, his voice deep and kind. "We have a student from a Category 7 world. Would you please explain to the class how humans developed what you call the fight or flight response?" Stood slowly, every eye in the room turned to her. "On Earth," she began, "survival was never guaranteed. Our ancestors faced predators every day. Large cats, wolves, bears, and many others. Our bodies developed a response to danger. When threatened, our hearts beat faster. Our muscles prepare for action. We either fight the threat or run from it. His hand went up. The professor nodded to her. So humans are prey animals, said, her tone sweet and poisonous. You developed responses to run away from danger. How interesting. I suppose that explains your species' famous aggression. Prey animals with delusions of being something more. Some students laughed. Others looked uncomfortable. Felt her heart beating faster, her own fight or flight response activating. But she was not going to run, and she was not going to fight. Not yet. Actually, said calmly, on Earth, humans are the apex predator. Everything else learned to fear us. The big cats, the wolves, the bears, they all run when they see humans now. We hunted them. We outlasted them. We survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions. We did not run from our planet. We conquered it. The room went silent. Then laughed again. Conquered a planet full of animals and bad weather. How impressive. Perhaps you should tell us next how you learned to make fire. The class laughed with her this time and sat down. Her face was hot, but she kept her expression neutral. After class, walked alone to the observation deck. She stared out at the stars and thought about home, about her grandmother who had survived hurricanes and earthquakes and still woke up every morning with a smile, about her father who worked in the mines and came home covered in dust but never complained, about her mother who had taught her to be strong and kind in equal measure. She did not hear approach. I hope I did not hurt your feelings, said from behind her. Her voice was soft now, almost friendly. I simply want you to understand something. This is not your world. You do not belong here. The sooner you accept that, the easier your time here will be. Turn to face her, and if I do not accept it. Lights flickered with amusement. Then I will teach you. The Luminal Festival is coming soon. The whole academy celebrates together. I have arranged a special honor for you, a chance to present your culture to everyone. Something in smile made instinct scream warning. Why would you do that for me? Asked. Because I want everyone to see exactly what humanity is, said. Sleep well, human. You will need your strength. She walked away, her light patterns dancing with satisfaction. Watched her go and felt the ancient instincts of her ancestors whispering in her blood. Danger was coming. She could feel it in her bones, the same way her people had felt the approach of predators for 100,000 years. But humans had never survived by being afraid. They survived by being ready. The days passed slowly at the academy, attended her classes, completed her assignments, and tried to make friends. But making friends was harder than she had expected. Most students avoided her. They would stop talking when she approached and move away when she sat near them. Some were afraid of her. She could see it in their eyes. Others were simply following her lead, treating like she was invisible. But one student was different. 7 was a synthetic being, an artificial intelligence housed in a body made of smooth metal and soft lights. The synthetics were a new species, created by the but now recognized as independent people. 7 was still learning about organic emotions and social rules, and this made them an outsider too. I do not understand, 7 said one afternoon, sitting beside in the cafeteria. The other students treat you poorly, but you have done nothing wrong. My programming tells me this is called bullying. Why do they do it? Smiled sadly. Because I am different, because I come from a place they do not understand, because told them to. 7's optical sensors blinked. This is illogical. You are intelligent and kind. These should be valued traits. They should be, agreed. But fear is not logical, and they are afraid of what they do not know. As the Luminal Festival approached, the station transformed. Everywhere looked, there were lights. Floating spheres of soft color drifted through the corridors. Holographic displays showed beautiful images of unity and harmony. Every species contributed decorations from their own cultures. The festival was the biggest celebration of the year. It honored light, peace, and the connection between all the peoples of the galaxy. Students would perform cultural demonstrations. Academic prizes would be awarded. Families would visit from across the stars, and had been assigned a special role. She was to present Earth's culture to the entire assembly. At first, she had been excited. A chance to show everyone that humans were more than just. A chance to share the beauty of her planet, the art, the music, the stories that made her proud to be human. But something felt wrong. The committee that organized the presentations was controlled by friends. They asked strange questions about human history. They wanted footage of specific events. They seemed very interested in war. "Show us how humans hunt," one of them said, a girl with nervous purple lights. "Show us your weapons." Gave them what they asked for, carefully choosing images that showed context and meaning. But she saw how they looked at each other when they thought she was not watching. She saw the secret smiles. She tried to find out more, but no one would tell her anything. The presentation was being kept secret, they said. A surprise. 7 was the one who discovered the truth. "I have accessed the festival planning files," 7 said quietly one night, meeting in an empty corridor. "I should not have done this. It violates privacy protocols, but I was concerned for you." "What did you find?" 7's voice was flat but could hear something like anger underneath. "They have edited your presentation. The footage you gave them has been changed. They have added material from human history, wars, violence, death. The narration calls humans primitive killers. It says Earth is a planet of monsters. It is designed to make you look terrible in front of everyone." Felt cold. Yes, she organized everything. "The goal is to humiliate you so badly that you will leave the academy. They want to prove that humans do not belong among civilized species." Leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. For a moment she felt despair. She was far from home, alone, and her enemies had planned every detail of her destruction. What could she do against that? Then she remembered her grandmother. When was young, there had been a terrible storm. The wind had torn the roof from their house, and rain had flooded everything they owned. Had cried, thinking they had lost everything. But her grandmother had simply started cleaning up. Her grandmother had said, "The storm came and the storm went, but we are still here. That is what matters. We survive, we rebuild, we keep going." Opened her eyes. She was human. Her ancestors had survived ice ages that killed most life on Earth. They had walked across continents, crossed oceans, built civilizations from nothing. They had faced extinction again and again and refused to die. She would not be destroyed by one cruel girl and her games. The night before the festival, when to find. The girl was in the main hall, supervising the final decorations. Her lights were bright with excitement, and she was laughing with her friends. When she saw approaching, her smile became sharp. "The human comes to beg," said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Have you finally realized your mistake? It is too late to cancel your presentation." "I know what you have done," said quietly. "I know you changed the footage. I know you want to humiliate me." For a moment, lights flickered with surprise. Then she laughed. "And what will you do about it? Report me to the professors. They will not believe over me. My family built this station." Looked at her steadily. "I am not going to report you." "Then you accept your fate. Good. Tomorrow everyone will see what humans truly are. Killers, predators, monsters. And you will leave this academy in shame, and your species will never be allowed here again." Was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice calm and certain. "On Earth, there is something we call a lesson. Sometimes people do not understand something until they experience it themselves. You want to show everyone what humans are. Fine. But be careful what you wish for, because you might get more than you expected." Lights turned orange with annoyance. "Is that a threat?" "No," said, "it is a promise." She turned and walked away. Behind her, she heard laughing with her friends, mocking the strange human who spoke in riddles. but was not worried anymore. She did not know what would happen tomorrow. She did not know how she would face the humiliation had planned, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humans had survived worse than this. And whatever came next, she would face it the way her people had always faced darkness. She would endure, she would adapt, and she would never ever give up. That night slept peacefully for the first time since arriving at the academy. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring. She was ready. The Grand Assembly Hall was the most beautiful place had ever seen. It was a massive dome of transparent crystal, and through its walls, the stars themselves seemed to be part of the decoration. Thousands of floating light spheres drifted through the air, casting soft rainbows across the crowd below. And there were so many people. Students, professors, families, and dignitaries filled the hall. Species from 100 worlds sat together, their different forms creating a tapestry of alien life. The air was filled with the sounds of a dozen languages, all translated by small devices worn behind every ear. Stood backstage, waiting for her turn. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was calm. She had decided not to fight what was coming. Let's show her edited footage. Let the crowd see the violence in human history. Would stand there and take it, and then she would speak. She would explain. She would make them understand that survival was not the same as cruelty. It was not a perfect plan, but it was the only one she had. Cultural Presentation 7, a voice announced. Human Culture, presenter of Earth. Walked onto the stage. The lights dimmed. The crowd fell silent. Above her, a massive holographic display came to life, ready to show her presentation to everyone. And then the nightmare began. The footage was worse than Seven had described. It showed humans hunting animals with spears, their faces covered in blood. It showed ancient wars, bodies lying in fields, cities burning. It showed modern weapons, explosions, destruction. The narration spoke of humanity as a virus, a plague of violence that had spread across their own planet. The crowd gasped. Some cried out in horror, saw children hiding their faces against their parents. She stood frozen on the stage, unable to move, unable to speak. This was worse than humiliation. This was annihilation. And then everything changed. The station shook, not gently but violently, a massive impact that sent people stumbling and falling. Alarms began to scream, high and piercing. Red emergency lights flashed once, twice, and then went dark. And the floating light spheres flickered and died. And the holographic display vanished. And every single light in the station went out. Total darkness fell upon the Grand Assembly Hall. Had experienced darkness before. She had camped in caves with her family. She had lived through power outages during storms. She had walked through forests at night with only the moon to guide her. But the aliens around her had not. The screaming began almost immediately. It came from everywhere, high voices and low voices, clicking and whistling and shrieking. The sounds of pure terror filled the hall. Heard bodies crashing into each other, people falling, people trampling each other in their panic. She understood immediately what was happening. Most species in the galaxy had evolved on gentle worlds, worlds where the sun always shone, or where natural bioluminescence made darkness impossible. Their eyes were designed for constant light. Their minds had never learned to cope with blackness. For them, this was not just uncomfortable. It was a primal nightmare brought to life. His eyes were adjusting. Slowly, shapes began to form in the darkness. She could see the dim outline of seats, of bodies moving frantically, of the walls around her. Human eyes were not perfect in the dark, but they were good enough. Her ancestors had hunted at night. They had developed the ability to see with very little light, because on Earth, the darkness was when the predators came out. She heard a familiar voice crying nearby. Yes. The beautiful girl was curled on the ground, her bioluminescent markings completely dark, overwhelmed by stress. She was shaking and sobbing, crying out for help in a voice that sounded like a frightened child. Part of wanted to leave her there. This girl had tried to destroy her. She had planned humiliation and cruelty. She deserved to suffer. But that thought lasted only a moment. Because was human, and being human meant more than just surviving. It meant knowing the difference between revenge and justice. It meant showing mercy even when you did not have to. It meant being better than your worst instincts. Moved toward, stepping carefully around fallen bodies and broken furniture. She knelt beside the terrified girl and placed a hand on her shoulder. Screamed and struck at her blindly. "Stop," said firmly. "It is me, the human. I am going to help you." "I cannot see," gasped. "I cannot see anything. The dark, I cannot breathe, I cannot." "Listen to my voice," said. "Just my voice. The darkness will not hurt you. It is just the absence of light. You are safe. I am here." "How can you see? How are you not afraid?" Almost laughed. "This is nothing. On Earth we have real darkness. We learned to live with it a long time ago." The station shook again, smaller this time. Around them the screaming continued. Someone was calling for help in a language did not understand. Someone else was crying. Made a decision. She stood up and filled her lungs with air. Then she shouted, using the voice her father had taught her, the voice that could carry across a crowded room, through a howling storm, over the noise of the world. "Everyone stop moving, now." The command cut through the chaos like a knife. Something about it, the confidence, the authority, the absolute certainty, made people listen. The screaming did not stop completely, but it quieted. The running stopped. People froze where they were. "My name is," she continued, loud and clear. "I am the human. I can see in the dark better than you. If you want to survive, you need to listen to me." Silence, and then from the darkness, a voice she recognized. The tree-like professor from her biology class. "We hear you, young one. Tell us what to do." Felt something shift inside her. All her life she had been an outsider. Too strange, too different, too much from a world that did not fit. But right now, in this moment of crisis, being different was exactly what was needed. "Everyone sit down where you are," she called out. "The floor is safe. Do not try to walk or run. You will hurt yourselves and others. Sit down and wait. I am coming." And began to move through the darkness, toward the sounds of people who needed help. Behind her, still on the ground but no longer screaming, listened to the calm footsteps of the human moving away. And for the first time, she began to understand that she had made a terrible mistake. Moved through the darkness like a ghost. Her eyes had fully adjusted now, and she could see shapes and shadows clearly enough to navigate. But more than her eyes, she used her other senses. Her ears picked up the sounds of crying, of labored breathing, of whispered prayers in alien languages. Her hands touched walls and chairs and bodies, building a mental map of the space around her. This was what humans were made for. Her ancestors had hunted in the dark for 100,000 years. They had tracked animals through forests at night, using nothing but their senses and their patience. They had survived in caves during the Ice Age, waiting for dawn while predators prowled outside. The darkness was not their enemy. It was their element. The first person she found was a child, the tree-like species her professor belonged to. The small being was wedged under a fallen chair, crying softly, unable to free itself. Its bark-like skin was scraped and bleeding something that looked like sap. "Stay still," said gently. "I am going to lift this off you." She crouched down and gripped the chair. It was heavy, heavier than it looked, made for larger species, but had grown up on a planet with crushing gravity. Her muscles were denser, stronger than they appeared. She lifted the chair and set it aside, then carefully helped the child to its feet. "Are you hurt badly?" "No," the child whispered. Thank you, how can you see?" "My eyes are different from yours," explained. "They work better in the dark. Can you walk?" "Yes." "Good, go to the wall on your left. Follow my voice. Sit there and wait, I will come back for you." She moved on. Over the next hour, worked tirelessly. She found an elder with a broken leg and made a splint from pieces of broken chair. She found two synthetics whose power systems had been damaged by the impact and helped them to a safe corner where they could conserve energy. She found a group of young students huddled together, crying, and led them one by one to the walls where they could feel something solid against their backs. And everywhere she went, she spoke, calm, steady words that cut through the fear. "You are not alone, I am here. The darkness will end, just breathe." The biology professor found her eventually, moving slowly with his hands against the wall. His voice was filled with wonder. "Young one, how are you doing this? I have studied humans, but I never imagined." "We evolved on a world where night lasted half of every day," said, helping him over a fallen beam. "We had no choice but to adapt. Our eyes collect light more efficiently than most species. Our brains process incomplete visual information and fill in the gaps. And we do not panic in the dark because for us, it is natural." "But the physical effort," the professor said. "You have been moving for so long, helping so many. How are you not exhausted?" Smiled in the darkness, knowing he could not see it. "On Earth, we have something called persistence hunting. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We are not the fastest species. We are not the strongest, but we do not stop, ever. That is our greatest gift." She kept moving. Eventually, she found again. The girl had not moved from where had left her. She was sitting with her back against a wall, her knees pulled to her chest, her light still completely dark. When she heard footsteps, she flinched. "Please," whispered, "please do not leave me here." Crouched beside her, "I am not going to leave you." "Why?" His voice cracked. "After what I did to you, after what I planned, why would you help me?" Was quiet for a moment. In the darkness, memories came to her. Her grandmother teaching her to help neighbors after the storm, even the ones who had been unkind. Her mother explaining that strength was not about hurting others, but about protecting them. Her father coming home exhausted from the mines, still finding energy to help a stranger whose vehicle had broken down. "Because that is what humans do," finally said. "We protect each other, even our enemies, even people who do not deserve it, because if we only helped people who were kind to us, we would not be worthy of calling ourselves civilized." Started to cry. "I was wrong about you," she sobbed. "I was wrong about everything. I thought we're monsters. I thought your violence made you less than us, but you are not violent at all. You are just strong, strong in ways I cannot even understand." "Violence is not strength," said. "Any animal can kill. True strength is choosing not to. True strength is facing the darkness and refusing to become dark yourself." She held out her hand. "Can you walk?" Took her hand. Her grip was weak, trembling, nothing like the confident girl who had mocked in class. "Yes, I think so." "Then come with me. There are others who need help." Together, they moved through the hall, guided, and began calling out to her own people in their language, telling them to stay calm, to trust the human, to wait for rescue. The security cameras, powered by backup batteries, continued to record everything. After what felt like an eternity, the emergency lights finally flickered on. Dim red light flooded the hall, and for the first time, everyone could see what had happened. The hall was a mess. Chairs and tables were overturned. People were scattered everywhere, some sitting against walls, others lying on the ground. There were injuries, broken limbs and cuts and bruises, but no one was dead. And in the center of it all stood. She was covered in dust and dirt. Her clothes were torn from crawling through debris. Her hands were scratched and bleeding from lifting broken furniture. She looked exhausted, barely able to stand. But she was standing, and everyone was looking at her. The biology professor spoke first. His voice was quiet but carried through the silent hall. "This human," he said, "saved us. While we panicked in the darkness, she remained calm. While we cried out in fear, she answered. She pulled people from debris. She treated injuries. She gave us hope when we had none. He turned to look directly at. This is what it creates, not monsters, survivors, guardians, people who have faced so much hardship that darkness itself holds no power over them. Around the hall, people began to applaud. Slowly at first, then louder and louder. Species that had looked at with fear and disgust now looked at her with something else entirely. Respect, wonder, gratitude. Swayed on her feet, exhaustion finally catching up to her. Seven appeared at her side, supporting her with a metal arm. "You should rest now," Seven said. "You have done enough." Leaned against her friend and closed her eyes. "Is everyone safe?" "Yes, because of you." Smiled. "Good, then I can rest." And the human girl who had walked alone into an academy of strangers finally allowed herself to collapse, surrounded by people who would never look at humanity the same way again. Woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. The room was quiet and bright, filled with the soft hum of healing machines. She was lying on a comfortable bed, and for a moment she did not remember where she was or what had happened. Then the memories came flooding back. The darkness, the screaming, the hours of work, pulling people to safety, treating injuries, keeping everyone calm. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Every muscle in her body ached. "You should rest more," a familiar voice said. Seven was sitting in a chair beside her bed, their optical sensors glowing softly. "The doctors say you pushed your body beyond its limits. Even by human standards, what you did was remarkable." "Is everyone okay?" asked. "Yes, minor injuries only. No deaths. The station was struck by an asteroid that damaged the solar collectors. Power has been restored. The festival has been postponed, but everything is returning to normal." Nodded slowly, and Seven was quiet for a moment. "She has been asking to see you. The professors discovered her plan to humiliate you. The security footage showed everything, both what she intended and what actually happened. She faces serious consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "Suspension at minimum, possibly expulsion. Her family is very powerful, but the evidence is clear, and the footage of you saving lives while she hid in fear has spread across the Academy network. Her reputation is destroyed." Closed her eyes. She should have felt satisfied, had tried to ruin her and instead had ruined herself. Justice had been served. But she did not feel satisfied. She just felt tired. "Let her in," said. "Are you certain?" "Yes." A few minutes later walked through the door. She looked different from the confident girl remembered. Her lights were dim, her movements hesitant. She would not meet eyes. "I came to apologize," said quietly. "I know it is not enough. Nothing I say will be enough. But I needed you to know that I am sorry." Studied her for a long moment. "Why did you hate me so much?" Flinched at the question. "I did not hate you. I feared you. When I was young, I saw footage of human wars. I saw the violence, the cruelty, the destruction. I thought humans were dangerous, that you would bring that violence to our worlds. I thought if I could prove that you did not belong here, I would be protecting my people." "You saw our worst moments," said, "but you did not see the rest. You did not see us rebuilding after disasters. You did not see us caring for our sick. You did not see us creating art and music and stories that celebrate kindness, not violence." "I know that now," whispered, "when you helped me in the darkness, when you could have left me to suffer and no one would have blamed you. I understood. The violence in your history is not who you are. It is what you survived, and what you choose to be is something different." Reached out and took's hand. The girl looked up in surprise, her lights flickering with confusion. "I forgive you," said simply. "Why?" asked, the same question she had asked in the darkness. "I do not deserve your forgiveness." "Probably not," agreed. "But holding on to anger would only hurt me, not you. My grandmother taught me that. She said forgiveness is not about the other person. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of what they did. Lights began to glow softly, the first time since the blackout. Your species is strange, she said, but I think strange might be good. Smiled, welcome to understanding humans. Over the following weeks, everything changed. The footage from the blackout spread far beyond the Academy. Diplomats and politicians across the galaxy watched a young human girl take command in crisis while other species panicked. They watched her save lives, treat injuries, and comfort the frightened. They watched her extend mercy to the very person who had tried to destroy her. The conversations about humanity shifted. The biology professor invited to give a new presentation, a real one this time. She stood before a crowded auditorium and spoke about her species. She explained how humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. She talked about persistence hunting, about the human ability to run for hours without stopping. She talked about pattern recognition, about hope, about the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. We are not special because we are the strongest, she said. There are many species stronger than us. We are not special because there are species smarter than us too. We are special because we never give up. When the world knocks us down, we get back up. When the darkness comes, we wait for the light. When our enemies attack us, we choose whether to fight back or show mercy. That choice, that ability to be more than our instincts, that is what makes us human. The applause was deafening. In the months that followed, more humans were invited to study at the Academy. Earth's status as a Category 7 was not removed, but its meaning changed. It was no longer a warning about dangerous primitives. It was a recognition of what humanity had overcome. Became one of his closest friends. The girl worked hard to repair the damage she had caused, speaking publicly about her mistakes and defending humanity against those who still viewed them with suspicion. Her transformation was not perfect, but it was genuine. And Seven continued to learn about organic emotions, with as their primary teacher. On the last day of the academic year, stood on the observation deck and looked out at the stars. The same deck where had first threatened her, now a place of peace. Seven stood beside her. You have done something remarkable, the synthetic being said. You have changed how the galaxy sees your species. I just did what any human would do, said. That is exactly my point. Any human would have done this. That is what makes your species remarkable. Thought about her grandmother, probably watching the sunset back on Earth. About her parents, working hard as always, proud of their daughter. About the long history of her people, all the struggles and triumphs that had brought them to this moment. On Earth, she said, we have a saying, the night is darkest before the dawn. What does it mean? Smiled at the stars, unafraid of the vast darkness between them. It means that no matter how bad things get, the light will always return. It means that hope is never lost, even when everything seems impossible. It means that humans have always known how to wait for morning, because we have always known that morning will come. Seven processed this for a moment. That is a beautiful philosophy. It is how we survived, said, and it is how we will keep surviving, no matter what challenges the galaxy brings us. She looked out at the endless universe, full of dangers and wonders and possibilities beyond counting. Somewhere out there, more humans were beginning their own journeys into the stars. More were about to teach the galaxy what it meant to never give up. And the first human at the Interstellar Academy knew that this was only the beginning. The darkness had tried to break them. Instead, it had shown everyone what humanity truly was. Not monsters, not primitives, not prey animals with delusions. They were survivors. They were guardians. They were the species that looked into the abyss and made it blink first. And the galaxy would never forget it.